sing the
Yeah, yeah.
Brahman? Jaya Rama Rama Kunja Bihari Jaya Rama Rama Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girvaradhari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girvaradhari Yashoda Nandana Jagadona Randana Yashoda Nandana Braja Jana Randana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Kunja Bihari Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Hare Krishna. So today we're reading from Prabhupada Nectar, Nectamrita. This is Leelas of a pure devotee, as good as Bhagavatam. And we're on page 346, for those who have a book, volume 5, chapter 4. And I'm going to try to read slower as per requests of other devotees. Prabhupada said, on Tulasi worship, please be merciful to us and send us specific personal instructions so that we may adequately serve the feet of Srimati Tulasi Devi. We beg to remain your humble servants eternally. Vidya Devi Dasi and servants to Srimati Tulasi Devi of Los Angeles. Questions. Number 1. Is each Tulasi a separate Jiva soul or an expansion of one pure devotee? 2. Where does her spirit soul go when she leaves this body? 3. May we place jewelry in her soil or just moonstones? 4. When Tulasi is being cared for by householders in their homes, must 2 aritis still be offered? 5. When Tulasi is being cared for by householders in their homes, may they use her leaves and manjaris on their home offerings, or should they take them to the temple? 6. When tulsi is being offered arati by the householders, must she have a ghee lamp? 7. Is it offensive to turn the baby tulsis back into the soil when they appear? 8. There are even questions concerning tulsi's aratis. We have always offered her incense, ghee lamp, and a flower. Is this correct? 9. In this manual, it states that tulsi should not be pruned. Does this mean trimming the branches which no longer have leaves or life fluid flowing through them? 10. We were told you once spoke the 4 regulative principles of tulsi care, which will keep her from getting sick. A. Keep her moist. B. Keep her clean. C. Give her morning sunlight, at least. D. Give her 2 aratis a day. This bona fide. 11. May tulsi be made into a tea after she has been offered. 12. May devotees carve tulsi wood for deity paraphernalia. 13. When tulsi leaves her body and the body is too soft for carving beads, how should she be used? Should a small fire sacrifice be performed? 14. We have a letter from you requesting that no sprays be used on Tulsi Devi. May we use a spray of buttermilk and whole wheat flour dissolved in water, which coats her leaves to keep spider mites from causing Tulsi to leave her body. 15. Does Tulsi sleep? Should she be left undisturbed after nightfall? 16. Is it permissible to use scissors to cut her manjaris, and when transplanting to use knives to loosen her from her pot? 17. Is it an offense to step on or across her shadow or the shadow of any pure devotee? 18. For 2 years we have been waiting permission to use the following 2 prayers plus translations and a translation of the already existing prayer. Please tell us if these are bona fide. Om Govinda Valabham Devim Bhakta Chaitanya Karini Snapayami Jagat Datrim Hari Bhakti Pradayani. Now I am bathing the Mother of the Universe, the bestower of Krishna Bhakti, the enlivener of the living force of the devotees, and the dear one of Govinda. Chaya no tava dukkham cha yat hridi tava vartate tat kasmasva jaganmata Vrindadevi namostute. O Mother of the Universe, please forgive whatever misery exists in your heart caused by the cutting of your leaves. O Vrindadevi, let me offer my obeisances unto you. Om Tulasi Amrita Janmasi Sadatvam Keshava Priya Kesavartam Chinomi Tvam Bharda Bhava Sobhane. O Tulasi, you are born from nectar and always dear to Lord Keshava. Now, for the service of Krishna, I am picking your leaves, or one who is shining brightly. This is a response from Srila Prabhupada. My dear Vidya Dasi, please accept my blessings. I am in due receipt of your letter dated September 27, 1976. If it is not possible for Tulsi to survive the winters when planted in the ground, then a suitable house should be provided for her. Even in the Canadian temples, which are in a much colder climate, they are keeping Tulsi nicely. Why should there be so much difficulty in Los Angeles, which has such a nice climate? Just do everything very carefully. Tulsi flourishes where there is love and devotion. In answer to your questions, 1. Tulsi is one devotee who appears wherever there is devotion to Krishna. 2. Tulsi's body is spiritual. 3. Yes, jewelry is alright. 4. If possible. 5. Tulsi leaves should be offered to the deity. 6. If possible. 7. Yes. 8. Yes. You probably forgot what the questions are by now. You may cut the dead 9. You may cut the dead branches, but what is the necessity? 10. I never said that. 11. No. 12. Yes. 13. use the wood for beads as far as possible. The balance may be placed within the earth. 14, I said no to chemical sprays, but you allowed otherwise. 15, undisturbed means what? 16, use common sense, and if you have none, then consult with others. 17, no. 18, don't try to introduce something new. The most important thing is the love and devotion. Hoping this meets you in good health. Your ever well-wisher A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami. Whenever Prabhupada 5, chapter 5, whenever Prabhupada visited the New York temple, the devotees there would perform a play. Once the devotees performed the kidnapping of Rukmini, and Prabhupada enjoyed the performance. He laughed when an envious prince played by Nayana Bhirama Das saw Rukmini and said he was going to faint. And when Balaram cut off Rukmini's beard, Prabhupada said, "Oh, now he's more than dead." When the play was over, Prabhupada said that seeing the drama was better than reading the book. On another occasion, Prabhupada asked the New York devotees to stage a performance of the Ramayana. The devotees had no time to memorize lines, so they arranged to have a narrator read the lines from off stage. The actors stood in a line and performed mudras while a devotee played a guitar. After the performance, Prabhupada called for Nayana Bhirama Dasa and complimented him and the other actors for their good performance. He then suggested some ways the play could be improved. He said that in India, different people read the lines off stage according to the different roles the actors played. Prabhupada said he liked the style and he asked the devotees to practice it more. Nayana Bhirama asked if it was all right to include guitar music rather than sitar. Prabhupada said a guitar played expertly is better than a sitar played poorly. Srila Prabhupada's airport arrivals were always ecstatic events with the devotees performing kirtan and dancing, unless prevented from doing so by the airport authorities. Whenever Prabhupada arrived in New York, Nayana Bhirama Dasa would always be ready at the airport with some fruit which he would offer to Prabhupada and then distribute to the devotees. When Prabhupada arrived in New York in April of 1969, Prabhupada himself danced along with the devotees, and the ecstatic kirtan attracted a large crowd of spectators. After his visit to the New York temple, Prabhupada was to fly to Buffalo on the day of his departure. The devotees accompanied Prabhupada to the airport, but this time the airport authorities stopped their kirtan. The devotees then began chanting japa on their beads. Again, Nayana Bhirama offered Prabhupada fruit and he began distributing the remnants to the non-devotees in the airport. Prabhupada then surprised Nayana Bhirama by calling him back. He told his disciple to distribute his prasadam to the devotees first. Charity begins at home, he said. Chapter 6. Little drops of nectar. Prabhupada's humility. Once in India, a young Indian sannyasi, disciple of another guru, came to visit Prabhupada. After hearing Prabhupada, the young sannyasi said he had one request. Prabhupada asked him what it was. He humbly requested Prabhupada to kindly finish translating all 12 cantos. Prabhupada answered, "You just give me your blessings so that I can finish the translating." Although the sannyasi could have been Prabhupada's son, out of his humility, Prabhupada begged him for his blessings. Once in Hyderabad, the devotees hired a cook. When Prabhupada found out about it, he became very angry. He said that they had hired a common sweeper who had disguised himself as a Brahmana so that he could make some money, and that the food had been cooked in such a bad consciousness that it had contaminated the innocent farmers who had eaten it. Then Prabhupada looked at his disciples and said, "Why didn't you ask me to cook?" He said he would have cooked for them, and all the devotees felt ashamed. When Giriraj Swami and Brahmananda were with Prabhupada in India, Prabhupada told them how he then had to travel to America to flatter some of his leading disciples there in order to get money from them for building his projects in India. Ramananda and Giriraj Swami were surprised to realize how Prabhupada had to humble himself to engage his disciples in devotional service. Once, sometime after being chastised by Srila Prabhupada, Shatadhanya Dasa went to the roof and found Prabhupada by himself. Shatadhanya immediately paid his dandavats, and he told Prabhupada that he felt Prabhupada had blessed him when he chastised him earlier that day. Prabhupada smiled. Shatadhanya said that his experience of being chastised was just like the story Prabhupada told of how he was chastised by Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati. Again, Prabhupada smiled. Then Shatadhanya said, "But I feel great anxiety." With great humility, Prabhupada said, "I didn't mean anything by that. Please don't feel that way. I didn't mean to upset you." Shatadhanya then felt very bad, and Prabhupada said it was proper for a disciple to feel anxiety in relating to his spiritual master. On a summer evening in Vrindavan in 1977, Amal Krishna Goswami told Prabhupada how much he appreciated Prabhupada's books. Prabhupada then began to cry. "I'm only a child," he said, "but I have tried to please my Guru Maharaj." Then he said that he did not write the books, but that they were written by Krishna and his Guru Maharaj. Later, he reprimanded Upendra for leaving some cabinet doors open. Then he told Upendra that although he chastised him very severely, he was actually praying to Krishna. "I cannot deliver them, you do." Text 7, chapter 7. Prabhupada tells short stories. Prabhupada would often tell the story of half a hen. A man once owned a hen. Although he valued the hen for the eggs it laid, he did not like having to pay to feed it. The foolish man therefore decided to cut the hen in half and keep only the half that laid eggs. In this way, Prabhupada would point out how errors arise from insufficient knowledge. Prabhupada once told the story of Gopala Bhan and the Bakula flowers. Bakula flowers are small, white, star-shaped flowers which are eligible and can be cooked as a vegetable. They're called Bakula flowers, and they could be, I guess, they could be cooked as vegetable. He was telling this to Gopala Bhan. This is the story of Gopala Bhan. Gopala Bhan was once making a garland of such flowers when a friend approached him and asked him what he was doing. "I'm making a garland for Lord Krishna," Gopala said. "You mean to say that Lord Krishna will come and take that garland from your hand?" asked Gopala's friend. "Yes," Gopala said. "And if he doesn't, I shall cook it and eat it." Srila Prabhupada in Moscow. This is a new story. On a different occasion, Prabhupada would speak of the quality of life in Russia. Prabhupada once spoke of his visit with Professor Katavsky in Moscow. After finishing his conversation with the professor, Prabhupada asked him to call a taxi. Professor Katavsky apologized and said that it would be impossible to get a taxi. Professor Katavsky then personally accompanied Prabhupada to the door and showed him a shortcut back to his hotel. Prabhupada explained that from this incident he could understand that the people of Russia were unhappy. He said that in no other city in the world had he seen so many people walking in the street. Prabhupada then related how on his entering the Soviet Union, customs agents discovered a Bhagavad Gita among Prabhupada's possessions. Immediately, a customs agent called the police. Prabhupada thought he would be arrested, but by Krishna's grace, the policeman did not consider the book dangerous and they let him go. Prabhupada said that the people of Russia are always under suspicion, and that it is a poor, fearful, and wretched country because they deny the authority of God. Text 8. Prabhupada said on college preaching, if you can draft some educated men to help us, that will be your valuable contribution. We want the mass of men to support us, but we want the class of men to preach for us. If you can induce some intelligent students in the universities and colleges to take up this preaching work, that is as good as yourself converting hundreds of common men, because 2 or 3 good men, if you can catch hold of them, they can do the work of many other men less intelligent. Letter of December 27, 1972. In this way, try to recruit some men from the student class for joining us as future leaders of our society. If we go on expanding and there are no qualified men to lead, then everything will be spoiled eventually. Letter of January 5th, 1973. The students cannot be overestimated as our best prospect. Letter of November 12th, 1970. On preaching, you cannot expect favorable situation. It is not possible. When I came to America, I never expected any favorable situation. I wrote that poetry in disappointment, that who will accept this? That is the position. By Krishna's grace, gradually it will become a favorable situation. But don't expect any favorable situation. You have to handle the unfavorable situation and make a favorable situation for preaching. That is preaching. Room Conversation, August 10, 1976. Prabhupada once saw a picture of Balavanta preaching into a microphone during a political campaign. Behind him sat the mayor and another candidate. Balavanta wore a suit and tie, tilak and tulsi beads. His shikha was trimmed and his hair was grown out. Around his neck he wore his bead bag and he was fingering his beads as he spoke. When Prabhupada saw the picture, he said that this is what we want, to preach in American dress. He said we should be known as American Krishnas. One time Giriraj Swami went to Prabhupada and asked, suppose in the course of time, by my gradual advancement in Krishna consciousness, suppose I became expert at everything. Suppose I became the perfect preacher and at the same time become the perfect manager. Then what should I do? Prabhupada said, you should preach. One time Giriraj Swami went to Prabhupada and asked, suppose in the course of time, by my gradual advancement in Krishna consciousness, suppose I become expert at everything. Suppose I become the perfect preacher and at the same time become the perfect manager. Then what should I do? Prabhupada said, you should preach. Text 9, Realizations. Prabhupada's humility. Just before the start of the Ratha Yatra parade, Srila Prabhupada was driven right up to where the carts were poised to roll. Right in the middle of the filthy street, Chicago's big State Street, he got down and paid his obeisances to Lord Jagannath. What humility! Since then, I have never hesitated to pay obeisances if the occasion called, no matter how dirty the street. Again, example is better than precept. Sureshwar Das. The force of his preaching. In 1976 in Delhi, Prabhupada was doing a pandal and he stayed in the home of a rich Indian gentleman. They called a big press conference and many westernized, so-called hip young Indian reporters were there, both men and women. They had come to see the sadhu. They asked many questions. Prabhupada spoke so forcefully, he shook their hearts. He shattered their hearts by his speaking. Although they came in trying to be sophisticated, by young Indians, Prabhupada shattered their hearts by his preaching. They became frightened. They gave up all their sophistication and simply began to treat him with great reverence, like the sadhu or spiritual master. Even in their fallen condition, when Prabhupada began speaking so forcefully, they became very frightened of continuing with their sophisticated attitude. They became very humble and submissive and simply began to treat him as a spiritual master. Prabhupada was so powerful that any cultured person, anyone who was a little pious, immediately became fearful of acting impiously or in an arrogant way in his presence. Hridanayananda Goswami. My story is from Chicago in 1975. I had been with the library party for about a year, and we had been traveling nonstop doing book distribution in colleges and libraries. In July of 1975, Prabhupada was in Chicago, and we had the opportunity to have his darshan. My friend Apurva was cooking for Prabhupada. He asked if I could cook a preparation for Prabhupada. I was very eager to volunteer. I made sandesh for Prabhupada. Then they put that on Prabhupada's plate, and I got to take in the plate. I'm sure he didn't recognize me. I was just a brahmachari coming in, offering him shadam. Prabhupada ate some of the sandesh. Like every cook, the next day I asked Apurva if Prabhupada made any comments. Apurva said, yes. Prabhupada said, why are so many men staying back from book distribution to cook for me? From this, I realized that my relationship with Prabhupada was not based on serving his Vapu form, but on distributing his books, Kalakanta Das. I had the realization that Krishna is spreading Krishna consciousness all over the world just to glorify Srila Prabhupada. We are doing so little actually, but by Krishna's grace, the little effort is producing such big results. Why? My realization is that it is only because Krishna wants to glorify Srila Prabhupada. His pure devotee. He's making everything so wonderful and so successful. Krishna is even making us wonderful, us Mlechas and Yavanas, just to glorify Srila Prabhupada. And why is Krishna acting only to glorify Srila Prabhupada? Because Srila Prabhupada had no desire other than to glorify Krishna. Reciprocally, at least in terms of the Krishna consciousness movement in this material world, earth, Krishna has no desire other than to glorify Srila Prabhupada. And why? Because Srila Prabhupada had no desire other than to glorify Sri Krishna. Giriraj Swami, letter to Sattvarup Das Goswami, August 20, 1985. So, you guys want to continue? Pequeño más. Text 10. Okay, let's do a couple more. Little drops of nectar. Prabhupada is considerate. Prabhupada once arrived in New York, and as usual, hundreds of devotees had gathered at the temple to meet him. As Prabhupada stepped out of his car, the devotees exploded in a tumultuous kirtan. As he walked to the doorway of the 55th Street Temple, hundreds of devotees followed close behind, chanting Hare Krishna and Jai Prabhupada. A young mother carrying her baby followed immediately behind Prabhupada as he passed through the glass doors that led to the temple lobby. The lobby was also filled with ecstatic, chanting devotees. Seeing the young mother behind him, Prabhupada stopped and held the glass door open for her. Even with hundreds of people worshipping him, Prabhupada took the time to show proper etiquette to someone else. Once Himavati Dasi was serving as Prabhupada's cook. One day she made eggplant sabji for Prabhupada. Prabhupada tasted the sabji but didn't eat any more of it. After Prabhupada had finished his meal, Himavati distributed his remnants to the devotees, but the eggplant sabji was too salty for anyone to eat. The next day, Himavati made the same preparation, only this time she used the right amount of salt. Prabhupada's only comment was, yesterday it was a little salty. And in this way, he showed his consideration of his disciples' feelings. Prabhupada visited Geneva in 1974, and Lilavati Dasi arrived there to type for him. But she had contracted hepatitis and soon had to go into the hospital. 3 days after his arrival, Prabhupada called for the temple president, Guru Gauranga, and asked him where Lilavati was. He was told that she was in the hospital. Prabhupada then asked if anyone had gone to see her, and Guru Gauranga explained that everyone had been so busy that no one had thought to go. We shall go see Lilavati. Make all preparation, Prabhupada said. Guru Gauranga immediately set about readying the car and the devotees, and he made arrangements for prasadam. When everything was ready, he told Prabhupada. Prabhupada said, "Very good," and told them all to go see Lilavati. Prabhupada himself stayed behind, but almost everyone else in the temple went to see Lilavati, who became very much enlivened by the care and concern which Prabhupada had shown her. Text 11. Little drops of nectar. Prabhupada is a powerful preacher. Srila Prabhupada possessed unlimited power to preach. Once in India, Prabhupada was so ill he could hardly talk above a whisper, yet he possessed such spiritual potency that even big government leaders and members of parliament were completely transformed by his preaching. One such politician went to see Prabhupada. He was filled with doubts as to whether Krishna ever even existed. After hearing Srila Prabhupada speak, however, he became a stalwart defender of ISKCON and boldly stood up for ISKCON to the press and other politicians. On one occasion in Melbourne, Prabhupada was talking about how just by chanting Krishna's holy name, anyone can be reformed and brought to perfection. He spoke of how bad a condition the world was in, but that simply by chanting, everything could be rectified. In a very serious and sober way, Prabhupada said, "I think we can do it." In this way, he impressed the devotees with the depth of his faith and realization. Prabhupada was once considering traveling to different places to preach, and he wanted to know what his disciples thought of his plans. Rupanuga wanted Prabhupada to stay in the United States. Another devotee expressed his opinion. And then Prabhupada asked Dayananda what he thought. "Well, Prabhupada," Dayananda said, "I don't know what your desire is." Like an arrow, Prabhupada answered back, "My desire is to spread the Sankirtan movement all over the world." Text 12. Srila Prabhupada tells a story. A simple village man once wanted to serve the greatest person. He approached the mayor of his town and asked to be given some work. While serving the mayor, the village man noticed him giving tax money to a visitor. He asked who the visitor was, and the mayor told him he was a representative of the government. "Is the government greater than you?" "Oh yes, he's greater than me," the mayor said. "Then I want to serve him," said the village man. The mayor appreciated the man's honesty and recommended him to the governor. The village man served the governor for some time. Then one day a visitor arrived accompanied by a troop of horsemen. The governor welcomed the visitor graciously and treated him with all respect. When he had a chance, the village man asked the governor who the visitor was. "He is the king's viceroy," said the governor. "And who is the king?" the man asked. "He is the ruler of the whole land," said the governor. "He is very great." "Is he greater than you?" the man asked. "Oh yes, I'm just his servant." "Then I would like to serve him." The village man was talented. So to please the king, the governor sent the village man to him. The man served the king for some months. Then one day the king told him to ready the chariot. A great sage had arrived in the kingdom, and the king wanted the sage's advice on how to rule. The village man watched as the king approached the saintly person and offered respect. The king then sat and listened to the sage discourse for some time. Then, as the king was preparing to return to his palace, the village man approached the sage and asked if he were the greatest person. The sage said no, he was only a menial servant. So please tell me, who is the greatest person? To find the greatest person, you must go to the temple of Narayana, the sage told him. Without a moment's delay, the man set off walking. It was evening when he arrived, and the temple doors were closed. The man knocked on the door for a long time. Finally, a temple priest came and told him to go home and return the next day. Not having any place to go, the man lay down by the gate and went to sleep. Before sunrise, some brahmanas from a nearby village passed the temple and saw the man sleeping. They noticed that covering the man's body was one of the deity's chadars. He's a thief, they said. In anger, they woke the man and asked him where he got the chadar. The man was mystified and told them he did not know where the chadar had come from. The brahmanas then tried to open the temple door and discovered it was locked. They then realized that Lord Narayana himself had placed the chadar over his servant to keep him warm while he slept. The brahmanas asked the man where he came from, and he told them his story. The man was then accepted into the temple and trained to serve the deity. In this way, the man came to serve the greatest person. Hare Krishna. This is the end of volume, of the 12th chapter. Jai Prabhupada. Hare Krishna. Jai.